Your child wakes up and immediately reaches for their tablet. At breakfast, they're watching videos on your phone. After school, they're glued to video games. At dinner, there's a meltdown when you ask them to put the device away. Before bed, they're begging for just 5 more minutes on their screen. You've lost count of how many hours they've been staring at a glowing rectangle today, and you're starting to wonder, is this normal, or have screens taken over your family's life? Here's the truth that tech companies don't want you to know. Screens are deliberately designed to be addictive, and children's developing brains are especially vulnerable to these manipulations. Every app, game, and video is engineered by teams of psychologists and developers whose job is to keep your child engaged for as long as possible. And it's working. The average child now spends more time looking at screens than they do sleeping. But here's what's even more alarming. Excessive screen time isn't just stealing your child's time. Research from the National Institutes of Health shows it's actually changing their brain structure, affecting everything from attention span and sleep quality to emotional regulation and social skills. Children who spend more than 2 hours daily on screens show significant differences in brain scans, particularly in areas responsible for critical thinking and impulse control. Today, I'm going to give you a complete framework for taking back control of screen time in your home. You'll learn the specific guidelines for every age group, discover why your current approach probably isn't working, and get practical strategies for setting boundaries that actually stick without constant battles and meltdowns. If you're tired of feeling like screens are parenting your children instead of you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share evidence-based parenting strategies every week that help you navigate modern challenges while raising healthy, well-adjusted kids. The first thing you need to understand is that not all screen time is created equal. There's a massive difference between a 3-year-old passively watching random YouTube videos and a 12-year-old video chatting with their grandmother or using educational software. Context, content, and engagement level all matter tremendously when evaluating whether screen time is beneficial, neutral, or harmful. The American Academy of Pediatrics provides baseline recommendations. No screen time for children under 18 months except video chatting, 1 hour maximum of high-quality programming for ages 2 to 5, and consistent limits negotiated with parents for children 6 and older. But these are minimum guidelines, not aspirational goals. Many experts argue that even these recommendations are too generous, given what we're learning about screen time's impacts on development. Let's talk about what excessive screen time is actually doing to your child's development. First, it's disrupting sleep. The blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep and reducing sleep quality. Children who use screens within an hour of bedtime get significantly less sleep and lower quality sleep than those who don't, which affects everything from mood and behavior to learning and physical health. Second, excessive screen time is replacing crucial developmental activities. Every hour your child spends on a screen is an hour they're not spending on physical play, creative activities, face-to-face social interaction, or unstructured exploration. These activities aren't optional extras. They're essential for building neural pathways, developing social skills, and learning how to self-regulate and entertain themselves. Third, screens are affecting attention spans and the ability to focus. The constant stimulation and rapid scene changes in most children's media train the brain to expect high levels of stimulation constantly. This makes slower-paced activities like reading, homework, or having conversations feel boring and difficult. Teachers report that children's ability to sustain attention has dramatically declined in the past decade, directly correlating with increase to screen time. Fourth, excessive screen use is linked to increased anxiety, depression, and behavioral problems in children. Social media in particular creates constant comparison, fear of missing out, and exposure to content children aren't developmentally ready to process. Even in younger children, the dopamine hits from games and videos create a reward system that makes real-world activities feel less satisfying. Now let's establish realistic boundaries for different age groups. For infants and toddlers under 2, the goal should be 0 recreational screen time. I know this sounds extreme in our digital world, but the research is clear. Screens provide no developmental benefit for this age group and may cause harm. The exception is video chatting with family, which does support language development and relationships. For preschoolers ages 2 to 5, limit screen time to 1 hour per day, maximum of high-quality educational content that you watch together. Co-viewing is crucial at this age because it helps children understand what they're seeing and make connections to real life. Choose slow-paced educational programs without advertising. Make screen time an active experience by pausing to ask questions and discuss what's happening. For early elementary ages 6 to 8, you can extend to 1 to 2 hours daily, but it needs to be intentional, not default. Prioritize interactive educational content over passive consumption. This is the age to start teaching digital literacy, how to evaluate online information, why ads exist, and basic internet safety. Establish tech-free zones like bedrooms and mealtimes, and tech-free times like the hour before bed. For older elementary ages 9 to 12, screen limits need to be negotiated collaboratively while maintaining parental oversight. 2 hours daily is a reasonable baseline, with flexibility for homework that requires screens. This age group often needs screens for school projects and staying connected with friends, but they still need significant time away from devices for physical activity, hobbies, and family connection. For teenagers ages 13 to 18, screen time becomes more complex because digital connection is genuinely part of their social world and academic life. Rather than setting arbitrary time limits, focus on ensuring screen time doesn't interfere with sleep, physical activity, face-to-face relationships, responsibilities, and mental health. Establish non-negotiables like no phones in bedrooms overnight, tech-free family meals, and completing homework and chores before recreational screen time. The key with teenagers is helping them develop self-regulation rather than just imposing external controls. Have ongoing conversations about how screen time makes them feel, whether they're using devices intentionally or just defaulting to them when bored, and how to recognize when usage becomes problematic. Teach them about algorithms designed to keep them scrolling and how to protect their attention and mental health. Now let's address the biggest mistakes parents make with screen time. The first mistake is using screens as the default babysitter or emotional regulator. When you hand your child a device every time they're bored, frustrated, or need to be occupied, you're teaching them that screens are the solution to uncomfortable feelings. They never learn to self-soothe, tolerate boredom, or entertain themselves creatively. The second mistake is having different rules for adults than children. If you're constantly on your phone during family time, but expect your kids to stay off devices, you're sending a clear message that the rules don't matter. Children learn far more from what you model than what you say. If you want your children to have a healthy relationship with screens, you need to demonstrate one yourself. The third mistake is allowing screens in bedrooms. When children have unrestricted device access in private spaces, monitoring becomes impossible and sleep suffers dramatically. Bedrooms should be screen-free zones for everyone in the family. Create a central charging station where all devices live overnight, away from sleeping areas. The fourth mistake is not teaching digital citizenship and critical media literacy. Simply limiting time without teaching discernment leaves children unprepared for the digital world they're growing up in. Teach them to question what they see online, recognize advertising and manipulation, protect their privacy, and treat others respectfully in digital spaces. Let's talk about practical implementation strategies that actually work. First, start with your family's why. Sit down together and discuss what you value as a family: connection, creativity, physical health, learning, outdoor time. Then evaluate honestly whether your current screen habits support or undermine those values. When limits feel arbitrary, kids resist them. When limits are clearly connected to family values everyone agrees on, they make sense. Second, create a family media plan together. Don't just impose rules from above. Involve even young children in age-appropriate ways in creating guidelines about when, where, and how screens are used. When children participate in rulemaking, they're more invested in following them. Your plan should address screen-free times, screen-free zones, content restrictions, privacy settings, and consequences for violations. Third, make it easier to succeed with boundaries by controlling the environment. Use parental controls and content filters appropriate for your child's age. Turn off autoplay features that keep kids watching endlessly. Remove apps that are particularly problematic. Put devices in common areas rather than private spaces. The easier you make it to follow the rules, the less daily conflict you'll have. Fourth, replace screen time with compelling alternatives. This is where most parents fail. They take away screens but don't fill the void with anything appealing. Children gravitate to screens partly because they're entertaining and partly because they're the most accessible option. If you want them to choose differently, you need to make other activities equally accessible and appealing. Stock your home with books, art supplies, building materials, sports equipment, board games, and musical instruments. Create spaces that invite creativity and play. Schedule regular family activities that don't involve screens, hiking, cooking together, playing games, visiting museums. The busier and more engaged children are with real-world activities they enjoy, the less they'll default to screens. Fifth, handle transitions intentionally. The biggest battles around screen time often happen when it's time to stop. Give multiple warnings before screen time ends. 10 minutes left, then 5 minutes, then 1 minute. Use timers that kids can see counting down. When time is up, offer a transition activity. Screen time is over. Would you like to shoot baskets with me or work on your Lego project? This makes the transition less jarring. Sixth, be prepared for an extinction burst if you're tightening limits that have been lax. When you first implement stricter boundaries, behavior often gets worse before it gets better. Children may have meltdowns, beg, negotiate, or test boundaries relentlessly. This is normal and predictable. Stay calm and consistent. Most children adjust within 1 to 2 weeks if you don't give in. Now let's address what to do when screen time has already become problematic in your home. If your child is showing signs of screen addiction, intense emotional reactions when devices are taken away, inability to stop using screens despite negative consequences, lying about screen use, or choosing screens over all other activities, you need a more intensive reset. Consider a full digital detox for 1 to 4 weeks. Remove all recreational screen access completely and observe what happens. The first few days will likely be difficult. Your child may be irritable, bored, and constantly complaining. But most families report that after the initial withdrawal period, children rediscover other activities, sleep better, and behavior improves dramatically. After the detox period, reintroduce screens gradually with very clear limits and monitoring. Think of it like reintroducing a food after an elimination diet. You're testing whether screens can exist in your child's life in a healthy, balanced way. If problems immediately recur, you know that tighter, ongoing restrictions are necessary. For social media specifically, which is particularly problematic for tweens and teens, consider delaying access as long as possible. Despite apps having age 13 minimums, many experts recommend waiting until at least 14 or 15 when teens have more developed impulse control and self-esteem. When you do allow social media, start with limited platforms, keep privacy settings restrictive, and maintain ongoing conversations about what they're seeing and experiencing. Throughout all of this, maintain connection with your child. The goal isn't to punish them or make them miserable. The goal is to protect their developing brain and ensure screens enhance their life rather than dominate it. Frame boundaries as coming from love and concern for their well-being, not from a desire to control or restrict them arbitrarily. Be honest about your own struggles with screen time. If you find yourself mindlessly scrolling or checking your phone compulsively, acknowledge this and work on it alongside your children. This models that everyone struggles with digital balance and that it's an ongoing practice, not a one-time achievement. Let's talk about specific situations that trip parents up. The first is long car rides or waiting rooms. Many parents default to handing over devices to keep children quiet and occupied in these situations. While occasional screen use in these contexts isn't harmful, children also benefit from learning to tolerate boredom and entertain themselves without constant stimulation. Try bringing books, audiobooks, travel games, or simple conversation instead. Encourage children to look out the window, play verbal games like 20 questions or I Spy, or just sit with their thoughts. The ability to be alone with yourself without constant entertainment is an increasingly rare and valuable skill that needs to be practiced. The second tricky situation is when other children in your social circle have more permissive screen rules. Your child will inevitably complain that everyone else gets unlimited screen time, plays more mature games, or has social media accounts you're not allowing. Stay firm in your values while acknowledging their feelings. I know it feels unfair that your friends have different rules. Every family makes decisions based on what they think is best for their kids. This is what we believe is best for you. The third challenging situation is educational screen time. Schools increasingly require devices for homework and learning, which complicates blanket limits. The key is distinguishing between necessary educational use and recreational use, disguised as educational. A child researching for a project is different from a child watching random YouTube videos allegedly about science. Monitor educational screen time to ensure it's actually being used productively. Many children are skilled at making it look like they're doing homework while actually gaming or browsing social media. Consider having homework done on a shared family computer in a common area where you can glance over occasionally, rather than on private devices in bedrooms. The fourth situation is sleepovers and time at other people's homes. You can't control what your child is exposed to at their friend's house, and this gets increasingly important as they get older. Before allowing sleepovers, have conversations with the other parents about screen time rules and content restrictions. It's not overprotective to ask what movies or games will be available and to request that your limits be respected. Also, prepare your child with language for navigating situations where they're uncomfortable with content or screen time at someone else's house. If you see something that doesn't feel right, you can always call me to come get you, no questions asked. This gives them an exit strategy without putting them in a position of having to explain your family's rules to peers. If you're realizing that screen time might be more problematic in your home than you'd like to admit, and you want more strategies for raising kids who can navigate technology healthily without being controlled by it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share practical, research-backed parenting advice every week that addresses the unique challenges of raising children in the digital age. Remember that you're fighting against billion-dollar industries that profit from your child's attention. Every app, game, and platform is designed by teams whose job is to maximize engagement. Infinite scroll, autoplay, push notifications, likes, and comments, these aren't accidents. They're carefully engineered to create compulsive use patterns. You're not being mean, old-fashioned, or overprotective by setting limits. You're protecting your child's developing brain from manipulation they're not equipped to resist on their own. As they mature, you'll gradually teach them to recognize these manipulations and develop their own healthy boundaries. But they need your protection and guidance, while their brains are still developing the capacity for self-regulation. As we wrap up, I want you to understand that managing screen time isn't about being perfect or completely eliminating technology from your child's life. Technology is part of our world and will be part of their future. The goal is teaching them to use screens as tools that enhance their lives, rather than letting screens use them. This requires a both-and approach. Yes, set clear boundaries and limits, and yes, teach digital literacy and self-regulation. Yes, model healthy screen habits yourself, and yes, fill their lives with compelling alternatives that make screens less appealing by default. Yes, protect them from harmful content and excessive use, and yes, gradually give them more autonomy as they demonstrate responsible usage. The challenges you're facing with screen time are relatively new in human history. Parents 50 years ago didn't have to compete with algorithms designed to hijack their children's attention. You're navigating uncharted territory, and the fact that you're seeking information and strategies shows you're taking this seriously. Don't compare your family to the highlight reels you see on social media, where children supposedly never use screens and are always engaged in wholesome activities. Every family struggles with this balance. What matters is being intentional about your approach rather than letting screens happen by default. Be prepared for this to be an ongoing conversation and adjustment throughout your child's development. The boundaries that work for a 5-year-old won't work for a 15-year-old. You'll need to continually reassess as your children grow, as technology evolves, and as family circumstances change. Flexibility within a framework of core values will serve you better than rigid rules that don't adapt. Also recognize that different children have different vulnerabilities around screens. Some kids can self-regulate reasonably well, while others become genuinely addicted quickly. Just like some people can have one drink while others struggle with alcohol addiction. Some children can handle moderate screen time while others need stricter limits. Pay attention to how screens affect your individual child rather than applying one-size-fits-all rules. Watch for warning signs that screen time is becoming problematic. Declining grades, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities, sleep problems, increased irritability, especially when devices are taken away, sneaking screen time or choosing screens over real-world social interaction consistently. These signs indicate you need to tighten boundaries and possibly seek professional support. The relationship your child develops with technology now will follow them into adulthood. Adults who can't put down their phones, who constantly need digital stimulation, or who let screens interfere with work and relationships often trace these patterns back to unlimited childhood access. You're not just managing today's screen time, you're building lifelong habits and teaching media literacy that will serve them forever. Finally, remember that connection with you is the best antidote to screen addiction. Children who feel seen, heard, and genuinely connected to their parents are naturally less drawn to seeking connection and validation through screens. The time you invest in playing with them, talking with them, and being fully present creates a foundation that makes screens less appealing. Your children won't remember every specific screen time battle, but they will remember whether you prioritized real connection, whether family time meant being truly together, and whether you taught them to be masters of technology rather than servants to it. These lessons will shape not just their childhood, but their entire relationship with the digital world. Start today with one change. Maybe it's no phones at dinner. Maybe it's a screen-free hour before bed. Maybe it's finally implementing that charging station. Whatever it is, start there and build momentum. Every small step toward healthier screen habits is an investment in your child's well-being, development, and future.